My Lords, it's a great pleasure to follow the noble Lord Krebs, and I very much endorse his committee's report and would urge those noble Lords who haven't read it yet to catch up with it. And I would also endorse his comments about Amendment 57. It is vitally important. We've seen so much focus on productivity measured purely as calories or tonnes per acre, and that's something that I'll be coming back to in later groups in this discussion. Now, I'm going to be speaking in this group primarily to Amendment 43 and 54, which are interlinked. You've already had an introduction to them from the noble Lord Greaves, so I won't repeat that introduction, but I would like to thank the noble Lords Judd and Greaves and the noble Lady Baroness Boycott for supporting these. And I also want to thank the noble Lady Baroness Boycott for setting out so clearly the huge importance of county farms is allowing opportunities for new farmers, young farmers to get into the industry. And it's crucial that this network is absolutely protected and indeed significantly enhanced. I would also reflect what the noble Lord Greaves said about local food and the importance in all communities, but particularly in those communities often labelled as left behind. If we have strong local food networks, strong local food growing systems up and down the country, then that means that the economic benefits are distributed around the country. And what we've seen in our economy in so many different ways is far too much concentration of economic benefits in London and the southeast. However, I would just perhaps put one word of warning in what the noble Lord Greaves said about cheap food, because I always want to put scare quotes around that cheap food in supermarkets, because we always have to remember that cheap food is costing us the earth and it's costing us our health. But to come particularly to the amendments 43 and 54, I really want to pay tribute to the work of the Land Workers Alliance, UK Sustain, and the Campaign to Protect Rural England, who all had input into this. And they very much want to highlight how local food systems deliver benefits on a scale from the local to the global, but they suffer from decades of underinvestment. Many of the people involved in them, the producers, the processors, the retailers and caterers, are small, and they've got limited management and financial capabilities for collaboration and sector development. Although I note that other elements of this bill seek to encourage that, and that's something we want to see the government very much supporting right across the board. So if we think about the benefits of local food strategies and infrastructure, this reduces our reliance on imported food. That means it reduces exposure to volatile global markets, to the uncertainties of a world that now looks increasingly very uncertain indeed. Local food systems have the capacity to meet up to 80% of the UK's food demands through UK-based production. 80%. And over 50% of that can be produced within 100 miles of where it's consumed. Think about what a different kind of system that would be if the majority of the food on your plate comes from locally, all of the economic benefits being circulating around in your local economy. It will also have that global impact of reducing what are known as ghost acres, the land in other countries which should be currently available to feed their own populations, their own local food, but which is currently used for growing export crops. It also allows producers to gain a higher share of the retail pound through short supply chains, making farming enterprises more profitable and a valuable contribution to those local economies. It should never be forgotten that farmers are now getting less than 10%, a lot less than 10% of the benefits of every pound of food we buy. Now, it's also on the broader economic benefits. There's evidence from Nourish Scotland that for every pound invested in local food, 6 to 8 pounds is returned to a local society. Over 50% is retained in the local economy, while non-local enterprises, one might perhaps there think supermarkets, only 15 to 30% of the money is returned. And this means that we have public health priorities are catered to: fresher, more nutritious, more affordable food to local communities. And there's also increased interaction with local vendors and the satisfaction perhaps of volunteering at local farms, community-supported agriculture. It also means that we can have more diverse, sustainable mixed farms that produce multiple products. That would enable more on-farm recycling, lower inputs, reductions of food waste and other environmental benefits. And if we look at a mapping study from 2012, 5-year study, mapping local food webs, estimated that 103,000 jobs from across England could already be attributed to the local food economy, 61,000 flowing from local food sales. Spending in local food outlets supports an average of 1 job for every £46,000 of annual turnover. On the 3 major national chains, 1 job per 138 to 144,000 pounds. So we're talking about a system that works for people and the environment. So I would commend to your Lordship's House Amendments 43 and 54. But I also want to refer to Amendment 61, to which I attach my name, which was moved by the Noble Lord Holmes of Richmond. Now this refers to growing under glass. I'm not sure glass is quite the right word here, but I'm sure everyone knows what we're talking about here, because it talks about using renewable energy, and this is real possibilities. One of the areas of this is the possibilities of waste heat, the possibilities of reducing carbon emissions and using energy and resources well. This is an area in which the UK has very much been left behind compared to countries such as the Netherlands. And I express my concern here, which I've already written to the government, have put in a written question to the government about the low carbon heat consultation, which currently excludes the potential of large-scale heat pumps, which could be fed into this area. So I also want to just very briefly refer to Amendments 12 and 13, which my noble friend has attached her name to Amendment 12 and has already referred to both of them. It really is vital to understand where our food comes from. And I refer noble lords to a fascinating study from the British Nutrition Foundation that found that 1/3 of primary school pupils thought that cheese came from plants. We have a long way to go, my lords, in ensuring that we have a full understanding of where our food comes from, the importance of food security, an understanding of how we all depend. Our entire economy is a subset of the natural world. Thank you, my lords.
Rock.